In this week's tutorial, we want to talk about fabric texture and how to create this texture on the two-dimensional surface of paper using only pencils. But first of all, we have to go through some general and basic rules about how to process this texture and observe it correctly. Let's first talk about the laws of folds. I hope they will help you to see through the irregularities present in all folds, regardless of the type of fold, and allow you to see the structure. Masses of fabric provide several useful types of folds. There are 7 common types of folds created by tension or compression. We will look at each of these in this video. Imagine this is a typical piece of fabric, nothing is special about it, until you hang it from a single point. Note how it falls in on itself as the material adheres to the laws of gravity. Here we have the same piece of fabric hung from 2 points of support with a lot of slack. This time there's less slack in between the points, but the sweep of the folds remains. The most important things are the nature of the fabric and the force exerted on it. Every fold must have its support. It either pulls or is being pulled. It clings or it folds. It encircles or it is festooned. But in every case it must be supported. It does not become drapery until it is supported by something. We call these supports tension. So different types of folds are created when there is tension or compression of the fabric, sometimes even both. Let's get familiar with some expressions here. Tension anchor point. This is any point that supports or anchors cloth in solid form, creating tension. These create the primary pull of the fold. I. This is the point in the fold that breaks under the weight of the fabric, creating secondary pull or tension. Belly. This is the fullest part of the fold, usually the farthest from any anchor point. Occasionally, the belly will get too full and the fold will diffuse or break and create an eye. The first 2 folds we will study here are the pipe fold and the diaper fold. Let's start with pipe folds. The pipe fold is the simplest form of drape. Usually occurs from one point of suspension when pulled between 2 points. So if a piece of cloth is held up or nailed by one corner and then pulled from the other corner, tubular folds radiate from its fixed point. Pipe folds usually happen when the fabric has an even base. It is usually influenced by gravity and is under no strain, having a more or less smooth, even flow. Pipe folds are actually named for their roughly cylindrical form. As you see in this type of folds, each individual fold has the form of a simple cylinder or cone. The fold patterns on pipe folds are roughly vertical lines perpendicular to the force of compression. The defining characteristics of this fold are the radiating cylindrical folds that often multiply as they move away from their anchor point. The folds turn into cylindrical shapes at the bottom. How round or squished and how many folds depends on the amount of compression. The more compression, the more folds, and the more squished each one gets. Pipe folds are commonly seen around the house in curtains, but you will also see pipe folds in dresses or skirts. As always, be mindful of the forms and cross contours that are present in the folds. It is easy to see the cylindrical forms coming towards us, but don't forget, as the forms turn away, they create inner cylinders as well. Here is a repeat of those folds with the underlying pipes included. Remember that the pipe or tube aspect of the folds is a general guide to their appearance, much like a ball or egg shape is used as the basis for drawing a human head. So these folds won't be perfect pipes. Their shapes may be semi-cylindrical or semi-conical. Diaper folds get their name from early fabric diapers that created this unique fold pattern when worn. This fold pattern happens when fabric has 2 points of tension and is slightly compressed in the center, which creates a series of overlapping sections typical of a diaper fold. All diaper folds are created by the competition of these nearly equal tension points, often creating a distinct interlocking of folds in the middle of the fabric. All folds will radiate out from these 2 anchor points. From the side, these shelves will be more easily observed. These folds occurs at the break or turn of the cloth. This is usually on white flat surface rather than on a tubular piece of cloth. Folds form in directions that radiate from each point and meet between them. The degree of the bend or curve depends on the amount of slack and the character of the fabric. The crisper a fabric is, the more angular is the break. Each fold has an upper and lower plane with a rounded transition between them. Also note that the more cloth that is gathered at the supporting points, the greater the number of folds that appear. The diaper fold creates a rhythm of interlocking lines that are tighter in the center of compression and get looser as you move from the center. It is important to remember that folds, like everything else in our 3D world, are made up of forms, not just a series of lines. When drawing your folds, be aware of the up planes and down planes and how a cross contour would fall over the forms. The most common places to see a diaper fold on the human figure are the shirt or dress being supported by the shoulders. The half-lock folds. The half-lock takes place every time a tubular or flattened piece of material abruptly changes its direction. The fold always occurs on the slack side. This is usually created by two anchor points, one of the two being far dominant, creating an uneven distribution of weight causing a break in the fold. This break in the fabric creates a unique interlocking of folds. This interlocking is the identifying characteristic of the half-lock. One of the most common places to see a half-lock on the draped figure is in any crimping of loose fabric, a bent knee beneath a skirt for instance. You can also observe this fold in an uneven diaper fold example where one of the two tension points takes dominance. Notice that the angle and direction of these half-lock folds are only slightly irregular. The change of direction here is mostly in the fold itself caused by the slackness in the cloth. The characteristics common to all drop folds is that fabric falls freely from a point or area of support. One simple fold or a complex unit of folds can fall from an area of support. Manipulating masses of drop folds gives you so many opportunities to bring life and vitality to your drawings and enhance their designs. These simple drop folds that fall from a push pin are conical. You can bring out this conical quality by showing partial ellipses at the bottom edge of the folds. You can almost always see a drop fold falling from the knee of a bent leg. From a point of suspension, the drop fold twists, turns, and staggers. Sometimes it hangs straight like a pipe fold, and other times a curved edge will give it a spiral effect. The important characteristic is that it is dropping regardless of small folds that occur during the process. Drop folds will contain small zigzags, spiral, and half-locks, but they all contribute to the entire drop of the cloth. Unlike a pipe fold, the drop fold has irregularities in shape and direction. Be sure that the folds drop. Pulled by gravity, a flag hangs in a series of pipe-like drop folds. The drop fold occurs as the breeze pulls the free edge of the flag away from its support. This slack side carries a series of half-locks, maintaining a directional drop. Spiral folds. Spiral folds are created when a cylinder of fabric is compressed by being pushed into itself. These folds result when tubular pieces of cloth condense around tubular forms, such as a sleeve around an arm. Spiral folds look like a series of crisscrossing lines that spiral around the cylindrical form they sit on. Pushed-up sleeves or pant legs, leg warmers, or loose socks are all common instances of spiral folds. Here we see spiral folds on the sleeves and pants. If we look at what a cross contour reveals, we see that each of the folds is like a small cylinder wrapping around the form. Different gestures cause different directions of spiral folds, and variables like the amount and character of the fabric affect the number of folds that form. The more fabric condensed into one area, the more folds appear. The softer the fabric, the more typically rounded are the spirals. Cloth wrapped around curtain rods exhibit spiral folds. Notice the pipe folds that fall from the rod. Elastic and clothing such as waistbands creates similar but smaller spiral folds. Most of these folds actually form only partial spirals that don't go all the way around the form. The direction of the spiral folds relates to the gesture of the underlying form. This fold is usually wrapped around tubular form. It will change direction as the points of support and tension vary from place to place. Inert folds. Inert folds are sometimes called dead folds, but they can add so much beauty to a drawing that inactive is a more appropriate term. As with drop folds, a mess of inert folds may contain several other types of folds, but the entire mess itself is considered inert. Folds within an inert mass can change. Drop some cloth on the floor, then pick it up and drop it again. The folds within the mass change each time, but the mass itself remains inert, not indicating any movement. Inert masses of folds reflect the surface beneath. It can have all manner of individual folds on its top surface. Its basic characteristic is that it is lying limp on an inactive surface. Its overall feeling and direction will be characteristic of the surface upon which it is resting. They usually contain folds and need careful study. All of the folds appear like a group of irregular ridges resting on a flat surface. Zigzag folds. This fold usually occurs when a pipe fold is bent. The zigzag is on the slack side of the bend. This is like buckles in an uneven crisscross way. It occurs because there is an uneven twisting of the fold that sets up a sharp interlocking zigzag. These zigzags may not be even. The main thing is to keep the character and direction of the repetition. Study the way this part of the fold wedges into the next part. Each slack section folds in contrast to the next one. It is caused by the twisting of the cloth. The slack area twists and folds as it descends. Folds are forms just like anything else. The difference with fabric is that, like liquid, it will take on characteristics of the form that is supporting it. In the second part of this fabric texture tutorial, we'll go through drawing an example of fabric and then we'll shade it using only 3 graphite pencils. So I hope you find this tutorial helpful and don't forget to come back for the second episode. Thanks for watching, I'll see you soon.